Hello everyone and welcome back to round 5 of the Moto America League. Today we are coming from Road America, a track that I have a lot of fun at, but unfortunately it does look like once again I am up against it for pace. I'm just slightly off coming into this race weekend, so we are slightly up against it unfortunately. The Kawasaki is really starting to be a bit of a weakness for me, especially in the power tracks. So Road America has a lot of long straights, a lot of fast sectors that you need a bit more power. And at the moment I'm just losing a lot of my time there, so it's making the lap time be more tricky to get. I'm taking more risks. It's kind of made on the front end, which is a recipe for disaster. But as we jump now into qualifying in a second, this session was kind of held up a bit. We didn't have a host, we couldn't get hold of the host for about an hour, so then we had to the riders had to come together and make a session up and kind of get everything going, and it was just a bit messy. And at this point we were about over an hour late, so I was kind of just sitting down playing Call of Duty waiting for it to happen, and eventually managed to get a host. I contacted a guy and got him to host, but it was just all up in the air, and then people were like, let's get practice, and people wanted to do practice, and the track felt terrible. Once again I've had terrible frame rate issue where in the actual server it drops like 50-60 frames after being like well above 200 for all the other practice sessions I've done. So I really need to figure out why and how to get that a bit better, because it really affects me in the actual session, especially when the track is green. But we're on the last lap here in qualifying. Unfortunately, my first lap I had a run-in with Zonta van der Gerber, the Moto 2 rider. I was on probably my best lap of the session, would probably been better than this one. And you'll see here in a bit we come in through chicane, but unfortunately that lap he had crashed in the chicane, rejoined in front of me, but I passed him. Then he tagged onto the back of me, slipstreamed back past me. No problem with that because he made the move clean, didn't catch me any time, and it was in the last sector, so I was kind of like, job, I'll get slipstream to the line, I'll make up some time. But unfortunately out of the last corner he had a massive moment and I ran into the back of him and that lap was gone. So unfortunately my best lap was probably ruined by that incident, so that was a bit of a disaster. So currently we sit P5 with a mid 13. I've done a couple of 11s and I was expecting a definite mid 12 to low 12 for practice qualifying time, but at the moment I just cannot get this bike up and running. I can't get it hooked up at all. At the moment we're on for probably a low 13, so really not doing well. Also I forgot to mention, you might notice on the left side of the screen I have my controller overlay on, something I used to run a long time ago, but I brought it back for the league just to show off kind of my inputs and stuff, just to show you exactly what I'm doing. It might be interesting to some of you. I think it's pretty cool to see exactly how much throttle, brake and what brake I'm using when I'm downshifting, what I'm doing with the stick and stuff. I think it can be quite interesting. But we're coming now to the final corner. Out of this corner is where Zonta just had a slide here and he had to shut the throttle and I ran into the back of him. We're under by about 0.6 at the moment, so it is going to be a decent improvement. Get again a small wheelie. I was afraid there I was going to hit a bike, but across line it is a 12.9. Pretty poor if you ask me. We're only P5 on the grid. You can see here Daniel Savani on the pole position. Biker and Gagling rounding out the front row. I'm unfortunately in the middle of row 2, so not ideal for me. We can see 19 people in here today, a few people joining that hadn't been in before, a few people that couldn't make races up until now, and a bit of a bigger lobby compared to last week's 13. Well, as we jump now to the start of the race, we had issues in race 1 where basically people got disconnected and jump started for nothing, so we had issues the first one. So this was the second start, and unfortunately it's not a great start for someone in particular. Biker Gaming just jumps it. The lights in fairness did get absolutely held for an age. Gargling high sidings off the lights. We've already made him one position. We know now that Reese has it right through, so we're currently in net P3 at the moment if you think about it, so I wasn't too concerned after the start. I got a decent initial launch, but again the Suzuki just left me. Reese runs quite wide in turn 1 but manages to just shut the throttle and keep Savani in P2, but Luke Rock now is going for P3 double overtake. I've given him space because I did not know if he'd make it or stopped. I get pushed onto the curb, which kills my drive, and now we're up against it, against the other Suzuki. So we're in the slipstream of the R1 and I'm well aware that I'm going to be coming a lot faster, so I brake a decent bit earlier, but the bike starts to have a moment and we're absolutely on the way to killing them, so we go straight on, and here I make a huge mistake and tuck the front. I was caught in two minds whether I should tip in, try and go through the gravel. X1, a wild card slash non-registered rider, tags me fellow Irishman absolutely clatters into me in the gravel. But as I was saying, as you might have seen there as I came in, I made a kind of a half attempt to pulling out of the move, and unfortunately that killed me. And then at this point now, the tyres are not feeling great, the bike does not feel good, the frame rate's at me, and I'm pissed that I made such a stupid move on lap 1. And I wouldn't mind, I was up into P2 on the first race start, and into that corner I made a lovely move and was feeling strong. But of course, when that happens, then we get a terrible restart, make a mistake, and at this point now, I wasn't feeling great, and I was really annoyed because I had good pace here. It was a bit risky though, because it was, like I said, it felt like it was always on the nose. I was taking lots of risks to make my lap time, and I knew coming into this race it was going to be tough to be able to do that for 12 laps of a 2-minute plus lap time. So it wasn't a huge surprise that I made a mistake early, but I was still very annoyed at myself. So at this point now, I'm just trying to get temperature everywhere, just get up to speed, get into a rhythm, just get some fuel off, and just kind of blow a few laps by and maybe make up a few positions. We're down currently in about P11 or 12, and we've a couple of riders ahead, so we do have more action in front of us. So at this point now, just want to take the edge off to kind of forget the mistake, but I was really not happy with myself at this point. I was really unforgiving on that, and you can see here again running wide. So it's been a terrible opening lap, unfortunately, my mistake, can't blame anyone else. But the double crash at the start being collected by another rider as well, so we are way behind. And after Reese getting the jump start and one of the Yamahas, Gargering, having a big moment, we're on for a potential podium position straight away. So I was really distracted, really, was what I would say. And the main thing when you crash is definitely do not crash again, because if you crash again, you ruin your race. And I didn't listen to my advice. There's 3 crashes in a lap, and I spawn right in the race line, so I stop and trying to leave people go, but then I end up getting collected again. I collect Doc Monster, which was our temporary host for tonight, so apologies to 2 of them. I basically tried to be predictable, not move and not hit them, but in the end it was kind of a blind crest. There's not much I could have done because the riders that immediately came through avoided me, but the ones behind me were unsighted, so kind of a shit situation there. But we've done a lap and a quarter, we've had 4 crashes. I was pretty much ready at this point to throw in the towel. I was fuming, I just wasn't happy. Down in P15, P16, Doc Monster coming around the outside me on the brakes. Pretty much sure at that point he wasn't getting stopped. He runs on. Crivier in front at the moment, he was one of the riders that clattered into me when I was stopped on the race line there, so apologies to him, but there's not much I could have done. But we look to have a lot more pace than these guys were around this moment. We go round the outside of Crivier, nice little move, and that is up behind the Honda now of Mystic Prune, so one of my training buddies in front, so I should be able to catch and pass him hopefully, and he will be a bit more predictable than some other riders. But I really was just disappointed at the start of the race, because I knew coming into this race that the pace was good. Even though we had massive disadvantage in top end and the ability to pass people, now we're in the middle of the pack and we're going to have to make a lot of passes. So even though I'm a bit quicker than Max, his Honda is a lot faster in a straight line, so my Kawasaki will struggle to pass him. You can see already we've taken a good chunk of time out of him, but just ever so slightly pulls away out of that slow chicane, and unfortunately we just are nowhere near close enough on the brakes, and we're not really going to pass him from this far back. He is too competent on the brakes for that sort of move, but for now we're just going to stick behind him and see can we get a move. That is X1 who's crashed there, the fellow Irishman. As I mentioned, he's had another crash. We'll see more of him in a minute, but for now my main target is Max in front, to get past him. And coming onto the straight here, I was thinking I can get a good run out of here, but my line in here wasn't great, and we end up going touch wide. I kind of get sucked in by his line. We get a late apex, but it's not great. That's another Yamaha, I think that was Ard Melandri, I think, who was just off track there. Now you can see what the Honda does to the Kawasaki on the straight. He just absolutely leaps away from me, and unfortunately I couldn't do much. And that was me just looking over my shoulder. That was Reese in the pit lane, Biker Gaming, taking his ride through. And unfortunately for Reese, we didn't notice at the time, but he didn't know what the pit lane limiter button was, so he had to ride through it manually. So he rolled through maybe 10 to 15 miles an hour slower, so he lost a lot of time. So that is pretty much him out of the race. Unless we have an absolute shocker, we're probably not going to see him again. But we've got a good distant run there. You can see me waving at Max, who is in VR. You can see him looking over his shoulder, so I gave him a quick little wave. We are gaining, and we gain a good bit on the brakes here. You'll see here in a second, he kind of accepts that I'm quicker and gives up the hand, but we'll see in a second. X1 flying down the middle. X1 is well known for being very, very quick on this game, but also being a bit of a one-lap hero and crashes quite a bit. So at this point I was expecting X1 probably to be quicker than me, because he kind of has only one setting and it's pushed to the maximum and kind of full send. So at this point we had Pax Max after he kind of just gave us space into turn 3. So right now I was kind of expecting really to be passed by X1, but he goes deep there again, I believe. Behind me, goes off track, so he is really on the limit at the moment, but I was fairly sure that he would come past me, but I wasn't too worried about it. At this point now we're back up just outside the top 8 or 9 at the moment, so I just need to get into a consistent rhythm, build on my pace that I had early in the race, and see can I make something of it. There's a few riders close distance in front, so there is potential in this race. The race isn't gone yet, only lap 3 of 12, and like I said, 24-25 minute race. It's going to be a long one. So at the moment I kind of knew I shot myself in the foot. I thrown away big points. I'm currently battling Luke Rock for P4 in the championship along with Biker, so I knew Biker was kind of out of it, but I felt maybe just slightly quicker than the Yamaha man coming into this round, so it would have been a good chance to overtake him in the points championship. But currently he is all the way up in P3 or P4 anyway. He's definitely further up the grid than I am, and you can see X1 now is on me, and we have a big moment. Again, just not having the biker underneath me, I felt like I had so little grip. He gives us a little wave, I wave back at him, and again I decided just to tuck in now behind him, use his slipstream and just go with him, because I know he will be quick, so I'm in no rush to pass him. Like I said, he is a bit wild, so if he tucks the front or has a high side, as is a huge moment into turn 1, I wouldn't be too surprised. So I'm not really expecting him to be in front of me for the whole race, so I'm going to use him now while I have him for pace. Someone has tipped off in turn 2, I believe it to be one of my Kawasaki teammates. I'm not sure if that was Keity Lemon or... yeah, it was Keity Lemon P9 ahead of me. So the mod maker who made my skin unfortunately tips off, very easily done in turn 2. Now at the moment X1 seems to have a bit more pace than me. He's given it a bit more beans, but he's running wide ever, so at the moment I'm pretty happy just to sit behind him, leave him do his own thing and take a bit of slipstream. And you can see he's having massive moments, and he touches a curb here and sends himself to the moon. So unfortunately for him, and he triggers a reaction from, I believe that was Jono Ninja who tipped off as well, and that put me up into P8. And we fast forward now a couple of laps, we are catching a couple of riders ahead. I believe that is the Ducati ahead of Alex Nogueira, I believe his name is, the Brazilian. So we are at a massive pace advantage compared to him, even though at the moment my pace is, as you can see, it's going to be in the mid 2:15s, which is just like walking pace to me. 15.2. I don't know what my pace was doing. I was consistently in 12s and 13s in practice, and then come to the race again I just struggled to put it. Bit of a Maverick Vinales syndrome, unfortunately. I'm really starting to struggle to just do the race rather than in the actual timed event that I can do in the practice. But again, just tipping into early there, making silly little mistakes, not comfortable at all, big wheelie out there. Just these small mistakes that happen every once in a while in practice. Every lap seem to happen in the races. I don't seem to be getting any luck, and I'm not doing myself any favours by making silly mistakes at the start of the races and crashing. But currently, at this moment, I knew I was quicker than the Ducati in front, so it was only a matter of getting close to him, getting the move done, and pushing on and see could we catch up to N-Jerk and Bunter, who were in P5 and 6 respectively. But right now the eyes are on the back of the 999 and the Ducati man in front of me, so I'm trying to just take as much time out of him. Again, he's not going to be easy to overtake because of my lack of top end. It's pretty impossible to make a move. Most of my moves that I was doing in practice were coming in this sector here, where I would take more corner speed in. You can see again, even on the Ducati, I'm gaining quite a bit through corner speed. This is probably my main strength, is my cornering ability, and then I kind of send it into here, but even at that it is pretty risky. He gets a touch deep there, he just missed the apex, so it leaves me just a bit closer to him. That Ducati does jump out of the corner with the V-twin. So right now we are setting our personal best lap time. He does me a favour here by going kind of a weird line to break the slipstream. That brings me closer because he's covering more distance than I am. We go quite conservative on the brakes. See him back and then misses the apex again, so he's starting to make a few mistakes. He's probably under a bit of pressure after he closed such a fast gap. So at this moment he has a huge moment, and I kind of got my eye line taken. I wanted to flow through there and I probably would have ended up on his line, But we go past him and we just kind of tuck across his nose and get into position. But I know out of here I'm going to be drafted back and passed into turn 1, so there's nothing really I can do to defend it. I can go defensive, I can try and short shift over the little bump there and the hill, but it doesn't really make any difference. I just don't have the top end, and he's coming and coming and coming into turn 1, but he actually doesn't get to me in the braking zone of turn 1, but he gains a lot into 1. I go touch wide because I was more concerned about getting overtaken, which is giving him a good chance to get me into 2. Big wheelie there, so we have to leave off, and he sends it from quite a bit back. We're beautifully done. Get to stop. We try to cut him back. Again, just a lack of power out of the corner doesn't get us anywhere. We get a nice bit of slipstream. It's critical now here that we get our braking mark spot on and get us stopped, and hopefully we can get to move on, because I believe if I have a couple of corners in front of me, I can probably pull a bit of a gap and just stretch him out. So it looks like he got a stop pretty clean as well behind me, but I'm happy now that I have a few corners to have a couple of seconds here just to make a bit of a gap. But again, a small mistake there. I had to pick the bike up as I was going to touch the curb, spin the rear up there, and that was pretty stupid of me again, just making these silly mistakes. But again, coming in here, getting the braking slightly wrong, but so does the Ducati behind, and that was pretty much the end of our battle. I pulled away and he crashed a couple of corners later. Now we jump to lap 9 of 12. We're on our personal best lap once again. You can see the last lap's a 15.2, so just shocking pace for me really. Not really sure where the pace was, but this lap we come around, we bang in a 13.6, so slightly more respectable, nothing too crazy. We've 4 laps remaining, and we have Bunta in front of us on the Yamaha, and we look to be taking time out of him. At this point I knew I had 4 laps left. I had a big gap back to Alex Nogueira, so I said I might as well throw a ZX10 at the scenery trying to catch him. So that was pretty much the game plan. The bike was slightly starting to feel better. I think I was starting to get into a rhythm of understanding how the bike felt in the conditions, how it felt in the race fuel, race tyres, and getting up to speed with the lack of FPS. And it's starting to show here as we're pretty much setting our best laps of the race, making the bike do all sorts of things towards the end. And we are catching Bunta hand over fist at the moment, so will we get the opportunity to pass him late in the race is what I was wondering. Would I have the pace to catch him? But still making some small mistakes, not being perfect. So it wasn't going to be just simply right up to the back of him. There is a couple of seconds gap at the moment, but I was confident in myself that I was slightly riding better, and that all I'd take was one mistake from him and I could be on him. But then again, if I started to catch him, where would the move come was my kind of big question mark. I was starting to think in and around this part here. I was really pushing hard, but I was also trying to think where would be the best place to do it, because I can't do it into the heavy braking zones because I don't get out of the corner well enough. Corner like this I could do, but it's very risky. You could easily run wide and touch the front, as someone up ahead has slid off, and it is Endjerk on the other R1. The Dutchman has slid off coming out of a very, very tricky chicane, and unfortunately he's handed me P7 or P6 actually. I jump into after that mistake, so Bunta P5. So if we could recover to P5, it would be an absolute magnificent result for me after having couple of crashes, 4 crashes overall so far, and we're still in the hunt for P5. So again, even with my really bad pace, I think a lot of people crash in front and people struggle with this track. The fact that we're almost challenging for top 5, it would be brilliant to get back. It would limit the points drop to Luke Rock, who's only in P4, so we wouldn't lose a whole lot of points to him, and we would gain a nice chunk of points over Biker, who's recovered to a brilliant P9 after his ride through. We set a 12.93. That is the fastest lap of the weekend for me in the league sessions. A 12.95 was my quali lap, and overall the fact that I'm going quick in the race is pretty poor. I shouldn't be doing that. I should be much quicker in qualifying, and that was the disappointing part. We are really, after catching Bunta now over the last lap and a half with the 12, that really took time out of him. Quick look over the shoulder just to kind of gauge the idea of how far Endjerk back, so if there is a mistake or if we have to send a lunge on Bunta in a couple of corners, how much of a distance do we have to fall back in if it doesn't go right. But right now here at this point I can see him gaining into all the heavy braking zones, which again on most people, so I was thinking maybe if we could spring a move somewhere similar to that. We got past Max, but it's still just going to be difficult to get a move, and it was kind of in a way it was on my mind that I had to get out of the corners so well, and the curbs are pretty lethal around here, so you couldn't really use them. And again, you can see we're going pretty well up on the green. We're on for mid 12 here, This would really smash our qualifying lap time out of the park if we can start to get this lap to the end. And you can see through here again. Might be hard to see on the screen, but I remember during the race, most people I followed through here, I just start taking a tenth or so through that corner. You can just see a few bike lanes come back to me. And we started to make a bit of a indent into his gap. And you can see now he's just there. A few mistakes again. We are really starting to push it. 12s are really good laps around here, so the fact that we're down to our actual race pace now is quite nice. We're about a quarter of a second over our PB at the moment. We really take the piss on the brakes in here. I remember this one thinking it's going to be well to stop this. We went 7 tenths under PB there for a second, but we lose most time we come out there because we were just trying to make up all the time on the brake. He goes really wide there, up over the curb. That was golden for me because I knew then he'd have a compromise run into the final corner and out of it. So you can see this is the closest we've been. Pumping of the rear. I'm really asking so much of my rear tyre. The soft rear tyre is really having a beating here. Slightly too much of a wheelie. We still set a new PB. It jumps down to a 12.8. Lap 11 of 12. We are really giving it everything now. We're pushing to the max because we can sense a P5. And after the third race we've had, P5 would be a brilliant recovery. So at the moment now I'm really just trying to get close to him to see can I force a mistake. See how much we're making on corner exit, or corner entry I should say. We pick up a nice early throttle here. But unfortunately we touched the curb. And again, just no warning, and that just shows how much we're on the limit. End jerk flies past again. We are back down to P7 after that mistake. So once again, 2 races in a row that I'm chasing position, and the rear end of the Kawasaki lets me down. Unfortunately, that curb just bit me, and yeah, that just shows how much I'm on the limit with this bike. I'm still learning with this game. I'm still not a kind of a polished rider yet. There's still lots of mistakes, unfortunately. But we do see yellow flag up ahead. Is it a lap wide or is not? It actually turns out to be end jerk. He has touched the front and gone straight on. So we have P6 back. Now we have a lap and a half back, so we still have a bit of time yet, but I don't know what I did here. I think I was lost focus here because I get this completely wrong. Into the gravel we go. This was just stupid right of me. This just shows now like how bad my race went. Just completely lapsadaisical, lapse of concentration. Missed my braking marker by about 100 meters. And now coming on to the last lap, we have Endjerk, who is ridiculously quick behind me, and I'm thinking to myself, oh no, oh no, oh no. And at this point the bike does not feel great again after having to tip off in turn 2 and being in the gravel and stuff there now. It really didn't help. So I was conscious that his R1 is a lot quicker in a straight line. Zonta proved in the qualifying session how quickly he caught onto the back wheel of me and overtook me, so very conscious that out of the last corner, out of turn 2 and all the other back straights and stuff, that he would have a massive advantage over me. So if he does pass me, once again I'm back with the conundrum of where can I repass him. So it was critical for me that we have a perfect last lap and just basically not give him any chance to overtake. Whether we'll be able to do that, I don't know. But out of here again, just touching the curb, not good for the exit. We seem to get a small wheelie once again over that penultimate lap. He's just about there. He will be in my slipstream and gaining going into turn 1, so pretty much nothing I can do at the moment. Now it is time just to set my best lap of the race, put in a good lap, take P6 if we can. Again, curbs there, making a small wheelie. I'll just keep checking his gap, keep checking where he is on track. You can see we're setting personal best first sectors. This lap around then rides that curb perfectly, and unfortunately we got no issues this time, but just ruined me on the last lap. And again you can see we're on pretty good lap, braking in here, braking at my marker, but for whatever reason Endjer takes a load of time out of me into that corner. That lap really shortens the gap. So at this point now I'm thinking, shite, he is really pulling me in. You can see here another mistake. At this point my head is gone. I'm distracted by Endjerk's pace and how much he's pulling me in. So here now again we're wide onto a curb that he shouldn't be on. You can see the red arrow from Endjerk. We are pushing as hard as we can in here. Big slide from the rear, we go wide, and there comes Endjerk. So probably story of the day, just throwing away silly needless positions from making stupid mistakes. But at this point now again I was like, okay, well I'll have to try somewhere. And I'm pretty close here, but I spin the rear up, he goes a touch defensive. That move really isn't on, it was nowhere near close enough. He gets it stopped nicely and cleanly into the chicane. And he just gets out of there pretty tidy and doesn't leave me an opportunity. We don't go for a slipstream, we try and take the most direct approach possible, and it just isn't really enough. I brake as late as I can, but we're just not taking enough time out of it. I thought he was going to crash there. He does lose the rear, but he does get it stopped. I go deep, but not anywhere near enough, and he just pulls out there. I touch the curb. That is pretty much me done. He is a touch wide there, but it's not really anywhere I can overtake. That was a lap rider crashing as well, so it made no difference to the points. But we've managed to lose P6 as well, so after a poor start, a good middle kind of towards the end, and then we absolutely threw it away with the last 2 laps with 2 silly moments, and unfortunately big wheelie across the line as we tried to push. Big shake of the head. Not happy at all. We had a chance today of a podium. Coming home P7, 5 crashes. That is not the way you want to do it. Daniel Savani wins yet another race. He comes home with a brilliant P1 in Road America. Gary Green on the Yamaha recovers from a crash early on to get P2. Dario Andreoni rounds out the podium. Luke Rock, my main championship rival other than Reese, coming home in P4, taking a nice chunk of points. Bunta getting P5 after holding me off in the late stages. Endurk pips me on the last lap for P6. I get P7. The Ducati of Alex Nogueira comes home in P8, and a brilliant recovery ride from Reese in P9 after his jump start and right through. And now the championship standings. So it looks like Savani, with 3 rounds to go, has pretty much one hand on the championship. 25 points over Azuliello, who was missing today. Andreoni 27 behind. That's again pretty much done if you ask me. Luke Rock another 38 back. I'm 4 points behind him and 2 points currently ahead of Reese. So the battle for P4, possibly P3 if one of the front boys don't show up in the future rounds, is getting hot. There is a 6-point spread between the 3 of us in 4th, 5th and 6th. Bunta another few points back behind Reese in P7. Alex Nogueira on the Ducati P8, and Manu rounding out the top 9 in the championship. Right then, I am going to leave it there for today's episode. Unfortunately, just one of those rounds where mistake after mistake after mistake, I just couldn't put one foot in front of the other really, and just that's what it came down to. Made a few many mistakes, and really overall where my pace was, I could do the lap on my own if I was out front. As soon as I was in a battle, my pace went. I couldn't overtake, didn't have much to defend overtakes, so I was just kind of caught in all sorts of places. So it was really just a bit of a nightmare really for me overall, but not much you can do on some weekends. They just happen. You just kind of get a bit, just one of those weekends really, and there's nothing I can do. Laguna Seca is round 6 of 8 in the next episode. We'll have that coming next week, but for now, thank you for watching. I hope you have enjoyed today's video. If you did, drop a like down below, subscribe to see more, and I'll catch you all in the not so distant future. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.